You know, the VA secretary used to be this guy named Shulkin, and he's been fired or resigned or fired, depending on what Donald Trump is thinking at this particular moment. Now, on Saturday, the White House spokesperson, Lindsay Walters, put out a statement saying Secretary Shulkin resigned from his position as Secretary of the Department of Veteran Affairs. Now, wait a minute, that's not the story we heard before. We heard he was fired and it seemed fairly definitive. But now over the weekend, they're saying he resigned. Interesting. So they asked Shulkin about it. They have him on television. And he says, I came to fight for our veterans and I had no intention of giving up. There would be no reason for me to resign. Now, you don't often get a guy saying, no, I was definitely fired. I don't want any confusion about this. I did not resign, I was fired. But of course, you have to correct the president because he's saying things that aren't true. Shulkin didn't say, you know what, I don't like this Veterans Affairs job, I just want to quit. No, he was fired by Trump for, some would say legitimate reasons, some would say preposterous reasons. But is there anything that Trump does that isn't for preposterous reasons? So HuffPost has some clarification here. Shulkin said that the Chief of Staff, John Kelly, told him he'd been terminated, quote, shortly before Trump tweeted about it on Wednesday, adding that he neither offered his resignation nor submitted a letter of resignation. He said his dismissal was somewhat of a surprise since, quote, President Trump and I actually spoke the day that he sent the tweet out just a few hours before. Look, this is what I want to drive home to you guys. Even the president doesn't know what the president thinks. It changes minute by minute. He has no principles, he has no convictions. He doesn't even have any ideas. Things pop into his head depending on whoever's last in the room or depending on the last segment on Fox and Friends. So does he think that he fired Shulkin or does he think Shulkin resigned? I don't know. Ask him right now, ask him a minute later, ask him a minute later after that, and you'll have 3 different answers. The guy's a pathological liar. He cannot help himself. And he constantly gets his staff into trouble because he tells them things like, well, tell everybody he resigned. Go ahead, tell him that he resigned, okay? I didn't fire him, no. And they're like, all right, okay, I saw you fire him, but all right, whatever, he resigned, right? And then later they're like, don't you feel like I fired him, that guy was a loser. I'm tired of winning, so I needed more winners, right? So we're gonna get to the last flip-flop in a second, but I wanna show you Shulkin on TV.
Were you fired or did you resign?
Well, I came to Washington with the commitment to make our system work better for veterans. That's the commitment that I went to work every day. I continue to feel strongly about that. There was no reason why I would resign.
So why don't you just say you were fired?
Well, I think that's the alternative to resignation. I received a phone call saying that the president wanted to make a change, and that's certainly his prerogative to do that, and that's what happened.
You received a phone call from Chief of Staff John Kelly, who fired you.
General Kelly gave me a heads up that the president would most likely be tweeting out a message in the very near future, and I appreciated having that heads up from General Kelly.
So the tweet fired you?
Yes.
This is the world we live in. But that's okay, because the White House said that he was not fired until today. We go back to HuffPost. The White House on Monday changed its story about David Shulkin's departure from the Department of Veterans Affairs, acknowledging he didn't voluntarily quit. There is a deeply unstable, pathological liar in the White House. No one has any idea what he's gonna do, including himself. So any article you see, any pundit you see that tells you about Donald Trump's theory on this or his hypothesis on that or his strategy on something else, understand they have no idea what they're talking about. There is no strategy. It's just a deeply unstable man stabbing in the darkness, trying to figure out what's going on. I fired him, he resigned, I fired him. And that guy is at the wheel. God help us all. You just watched the video by the Young Turks, the home of the revolution. If you'd like to get the full show, come join us and become a member. tytnetwork.com/join.